Everyone, happy Tuesday. I know we're just starting with Excel, but how are we feeling about it? We've just scraped the surface. We have a lot of functions in store, but just testing the waters for now. How are we feeling about Excel? I see a nice, I see a dancing chick. So far, so good. Amazing. Okay, awesome. Let's hold on to that. So just a quick thing before we get started, keep in mind we're going to start with our foundations just to make sure we're all at the same level and we all have those strong foundations so we can get to the more and more complex stuff. So if you're kind of more experienced with Excel, don't worry, we will get there. We're all working with this together. So let me go ahead and share my screen. We will be working with Excel today. Keep in mind, I'm going to be working on Excel Online, but if you prefer to work on Excel Desktop, that's totally fine. The only differences you'll see later on is when we do a bit more visualizations, but otherwise they're pretty much the same. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. So right now, as mentioned before, we're working on our references in Excel mainly, but also bringing back some of our core Excel skills. So let's do an overview of our business context. How should I price the books my publishing company is selling? So you own an indie publishing company, The Bookstash, that specializes in literary fiction. Up until now, you've been dealing with pricing and cost negotiations in a very informal and intuitive way, which isn't great, but business has been growing recently, and you realize that you need to start treating your numbers more professionally. Your current method has worked reasonably well so far, but it might not in the future. So what we need to do to solve this issue is we need to set up an Excel workbook to calculate the MSRP, and we'll dive into this a bit more later, but that's the manufacturer suggested retail price and the cost for each book you will be releasing this month, as well as expected revenue, cost, and profits for our business. So instead of kind of relying on like what we feel like or what we think will be good, we're actually going to have these hard numbers. So we're going to do the calculations so we can have good profit and good revenue. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this workbook here. So if you're following along with me in Codio, you'll just go ahead and click this. And I'm not sure if you're able to see it, but it pulled up a download in my downloads. I'm using Chrome, and you'll see it up here in your downloads folder. So since I'm using Excel Online, to open this, what we're going to do is we're going to click File, and then we're going to actually go in to our folder. So we want to open files from this device. This is just Excel Online. And then once you do this, it should pull up your downloads first, and it should be at the very top for you if you've just recently downloaded this. So I've opened this a couple of times. You see it's 5 next to it, but yours will probably just say book number fellow. And then once we open, it's going to think for a moment, and then it's going to open our data for us. Okay, but again, just like I mentioned before, if you're using Excel desktop and you just want to double click that file and open it up, that is perfect too. Whichever is best for you. Yeah, definitely, I'll repeat. So just assuming that you've already downloaded this Excel workbook, this is just in Codio here, and let me put on my laser pointer. Give me a moment. There we go. So this is just right here. If you click on this link here, it's going to download your Excel workbook that we're working with today. So this is in Excel Online. What you'll do to open this file in Excel Online is you'll go to File, and then yes, I'll send the file there too. What you'll do is you'll go to File. You're going to go over here to Open. And then at the very bottom, you'll see Open Files from this device. So once you click this open files from this device, it should automatically just open your downloads by default. And if you've just downloaded the file, it should be the very top of your downloads folder. And this is called Book Number Fellows. So then once you open that, once you've clicked on that, you'll see this. And then we can have all of our information right here. So when we have our data, what's really good, or like a good kind of first rule of thumb, is to go through your data so you're able to understand it. So let's just go through all of the columns in our data so we know what's going on before we dive into our calculations. So you see we have here, and let me zoom as well, because I know it can be a bit small. So you see first, we're going to have our book title. So these are just the titles of our books. We're going to have the author of the books, the estimated page count. So this is just about how many pages we think the book is going to be. You'll notice, and we'll get to this a little bit later as well, if we scroll through the paper weight, so this is just going to be the actual weight of the paper, all of these are going to be 70 GSM. So keep that in mind, kind of like store that in your mind for 5 minutes or 10 minutes from now. And as well, all of these books are going to be paperback and black and white. So we're not doing anything with color, we're not doing anything with hardback, and all of our paper weight is going to be consistent. So that's something that's important to know. So as we go on to the rest of our data, and let me expand this so you can see it, we're going to see authors have different type of royalties per book sold. So a little bit different for each author. The copies that we have are also going to be different. So these are going to be the copies that we're going to produce. And then this is our estimated demand. So how much do we think the books are going to sell? Now that we have all of our information, now that we kind of understand our data, let's dive into a little bit more what we're doing with this data. And then if you're not able to get the file, you should see the file in live chat. That's the file that we're working with, this book number fellows. Okay. So also, if you're following along in Codio, if you click on this link right here, it's going to be the exact same thing that we just went through with our data. So we're working with this file today. And again, you can either work on this in Excel Online or just Excel Desktop, whichever you prefer. So again, this is what we went over. This is just the different columns in our data. We saw the book title, we saw the author, and we notice a few things about our data. Again, we have that consistent paper weight. So GSM is going to be grams per square meter. All of our paper is going to be 70. So that's great. We don't have to worry about kind of fluctuation in prices for that. Same for our cover type. Usually you'll notice that our hardback covers are a bit more expensive. So we're saving a bit of money and we're doing a paperback. And then for our pages, instead of going for color pages, we're just going to stick with black and white. Just a little bit more information about author royalties. So this number corresponds to the dollars that will be paid to the author for each book sold. The standard is around 10% for the list price, but maybe if an author is a bit more popular, they might want a bit more money. So they can actually ask for a little bit more from this price. Okay, so now we've got just a little bit of overview for our data. This is just us exploring what we have, which is a really good practice in data analysis. Now let's get into it. So today we're going to be doing a lot with calculating costs based upon our workbook. So the first thing that we want to do is calculate our printing costs. First, we'll review it, and then I'm going to show you how to do this one, but don't worry, we have a lot of exercises for you to do to practice. So factors that are going to change our costs are going to be the number of pages, the weight of the pages, if we're going to print in black and white, and the cover. All of these different factors are going to influence how much it costs to print our book. So let's first investigate the printing cost worksheet. So that's the one that we're actually looking at first. Or actually, sorry, it's the one we haven't explored yet. We were looking at book data before, but let's look at printing cost. And let's zoom in so we can see this information. So you'll notice that for printing costs, we have our different weights, we have our different costs for our black and white pages, and we have our different costs for color as well. And this is going to be based upon this GSM, and then it's going to go across by row. Based upon what I've kind of explained before, what is going to be relevant? Which cell is going to be most relevant to our book cost? Yeah, exactly. I have it conveniently highlighted. That was just coincidence. But yes, exactly. Cell B2. So cell B2 is only going to be relevant because if we look at our data again, all of the paperweights are 70 GSM. So again, I saw a question, what is GSM? Whoops, this is Codio. Let's go back. So for GSM, we see we have all of our information here. This is kind of like our data dictionary. GSM is going to be right here, grams per square meter. And this is just going to be a measurement for the pages. So, yeah, so if you're seeing something different, I think, Ahmad, you're looking at book data, which is the first worksheet here. And then if you click to the next sheet, you'll see printing cost. So just a reminder for Excel, the entire workbook of Excel is just the entire data that we're working with, but each sheet can have different pieces of data that we reference. So just make sure to reference at the very bottom. Hopefully you can see it okay. These are going to be the different sheets that we work with. But great point. Okay, so now we understand that we're just working with this 70. And we also are later going to realize, okay, we only need black and white. We don't need our cost for color. So knowing that we're just working with this cell here, or this kind of row here, let's go back to our case. So we looked at the printing cost worksheet and we saw that the printing cost is going to vary. But we just care about this cell B2, which is going to correspond to this. So our cost per page for 70 GSM is going to be 0.018. Everything else isn't relevant to us because it either has the incorrect paperweight or it's in color, and we're not worried about that. So keeping this in mind, let's do some printing costs. So let's think about this. If we want to do the printing cost, how are we going to calculate this? How would we calculate the cost to print each book? What would we do? See typing. I know some people already have the answer. Oh, wow. A lot of you are typing like the direct answer, the equation. Amazing. Well done. Exactly. So to get this, what we actually need to do is the number of pages times the cost per page. Because to know, we first need to know how many pages are we going to print, and then we need to multiply this by the cost it is to print each page. So let's go ahead and do this. So let's investigate this. I'm going to go ahead. So I'm just clicking up here in column J. Let's type printing cost. Actually, I want to capitalize that. And let's make it bold just to be consistent. So we know before, as you all have told me, the printing cost is going to be number of pages times the cost it is per page. So if we look in our column, and a lot of you actually said this already, the estimated page count is going to be here. So we're going to need to use this column and the cells within this column to reference these calculations. So column C is going to be mainly what we're looking at, but overall, when we're looking at each book, we're going to correspond it to each row. So if we're looking at Titan Fading, we're looking at row 2. If we're looking at Bionic Moon, we're looking at row 4. So this is going to be how we're looking at our data. Amazing. I know a lot of you are ahead of the game. Well done. So let's do this calculation. So just as a reminder, to do calculations in Excel, you're going to start with your equal symbol. And then I'll let you tell me, because I see several people are typing, after I've done this equal symbol, what do I do? What is next? Amazing. We'll start with C2 first, but well done. We'll start with C2. So C2 is going to be this estimated page count. Exactly. You can either type this or you can click it. I prefer to click it just to avoid any mistakes. because maybe you accidentally type B2 instead of C2. Maybe it's really dark. Anything can happen. So I prefer to click when I can. Now we're going to do the multiplication symbol, which is going to be star. So we then need to multiply by the cost per page. Now, I'm going to do it the wrong way first, just keep in mind, because I want to show you what happens when you do it incorrectly. Because you're accidentally going to do this, and you're going to be like, what's going on? Why are my answers all wonky? So it's important to kind of see what happens when it goes wrong to understand when it happens in the future. So we're going to do this wrong first, just a caveat. We know that we need to take this cell B2 for a cost per page. If we just click this right now, yes, this is the correct cell that we need. But if we click this, this is going to be correct for our initial printing cost here. This is going to be correct for this book. But as we go down, remember to autofill, we can double click this. I know it's hard to see, sorry. It's the square in the bottom right. We can double click this, but you see something wonky happens. If we double click this, everything is eventually going to 0. And we know this is not correct. This is not what we want. If we investigate this a little bit closer, and I know a lot of you are like, we need to fix the formula. We need to fix it. Dollar sign, dollar sign. Yes, exactly. We need to do this. So if we investigate this here, if we look at what our formula is doing, the first one is correct. However, as we go down, this is going to change. Instead of B2, it's going to be 3. And then instead of B3, it's going to be 4, B5, B6. Excel is very smart. It's dynamic. So it's assuming, okay, as I'm going down a row, you're probably referencing something else. You're probably referencing a different variable. So that's why it's automatically going to change as we move down each cell. However, since we're only referring to one cost, so this one printing cost for black and white, we need to fix this. We need to tell Excel, hey, you can keep your other variable as dynamic. That one can move, but when it refers to this cost, this needs to always stay the same. So this is called fixing your reference. You can also say locking the cell or locking a column. It's either is good. So now let's do it the correct way. So as it stands, this formula is correct. And let's kind of break it down just a little bit more. So for C2, does C2 need to be fixed or does it need to change? Should C2 be dynamic or should it be fixed? Exactly. Yes, this needs to be dynamic because C is referring to the estimated page count, and the page count is going to be different for every single book. So C2 needs to change as we move down every cell. So that's dynamic. However, B2 is our printing cost, and that's going to stay the same every single time. So we need to fix this cell. The way you can fix the cell is by adding dollar signs. So really pay attention to where you're putting your dollar sign. I know this is probably a bit small, but hopefully you can see this okay. But if I'm putting a dollar sign in front of the B, this means I'm only referring to column B. I cannot look anywhere else other than column B. That's what the dollar sign right here means. If I put a dollar sign in front of the 2, this means I can only look at row 2. So I can't move anywhere from row 2. I can still move different columns, but I can only stay in row 2. When I fix both the column and the row, this means I'm only referring to one cell. So it's kind of like Battleship. If you have your row and you have your column, that's only going to refer to one point or one cell. So if you fix both, this is just going to be one cell. And then Marco mentioned a very handy shortcut. What you can do if you're on Windows, you can type F4, and then Excel is going to automatically fix your reference for you. So it's going to fix both. It's going to fix everything it can. Just keep that in mind. But if you press F4, it's going to fix it for you. So now we have our formula. When we go back to our printing cost and we autofill by double clicking at the bottom right over here, now everything is correct. Now this is okay. And then I see a great question from Hassan. What about $2? So I'm a scientist, I do research, so I like to test things. What happens if we remove this? Let's see. If we remove this, now we're only fixing the row. So if we're only fixing the row, and Excel's like, hey, you have data there already, so I'm not going to autofill, which is okay. That's okay too. But I would say it's better practice if you are just referring to one cell, go ahead and fix the full cell, just in case. So I think the better practice would be to do that. Okay, just gonna update this formula. And I'm just looking at questions. So, Hortense, I see you say, where did I take B2? I don't quite understand your question, but if you could repeat that, that'd be great. And so I see, Deepak, your question. So you don't have to fix cells in every single Excel task. The only way you need to fix cells is if you're only referencing either one column, one row, or one cell. If you're referencing something that's just stuck to one column, one row, or one cell, that is when you need to fix one of your references. Yeah, definitely. Let's repeat. Absolutely. So the need of the dollar signs. So dollar signs are just going to represent fixing references. Dollar signs mean, Excel, I want you to stay put either in this column, in this row, or this cell. So let's just look at it once more. So we understand that this page count needs to be dynamic. These books are going to all have different page counts as we see as we move down the row. So that needs to change. However, when we look at our printing cost, we're only going to stick with this cell. Since all of our books have the weight of 70 GSM, and since our books are all black and white, we're only using this cell here, B2. If we don't fix this as we autofill, so as we kind of drag our formula all the way down in our column, Excel is going to try to help us out and it's going to say, oh, okay, then from B2, once you go down a row, I'm sure you want me to pick B3, right? And as you go down another row, I'm sure you want me to pick B4. But that's not correct because then we're going to get these costs for page weights that are not relevant. So normally Excel is just going to try to help us out and be dynamic. If we're dynamic here, we're going to get costs that aren't applicable. So what we need to do is fix this entire cell. If we put a dollar sign in front of the B, that's going to tell Excel, hey, Excel, I want you to only look in column B. Just look in column B. Don't look at any of the columns. That's not going to be helpful to us because Excel is still going to switch rows. So as we move down and autofill our cell, Excel is going to keep it's going to keep changing rows. So we're still going to get incorrect prices. So it's almost what we need, not quite there. If we put a dollar sign in front of the 2, that's going to tell Excel, only look at row 2 and only look at column B. Oops, I clicked. I wanted to show you the column, but it's okay, I'll redo the formula. So if we tell Excel a dollar sign like this, I'll do it again for you. Got too excited about fixing references and clicked away. So let's do this once more. If we tell Excel, I want you to only look at column B and also only look at row 2. Well, if you kind of match up, you do your battleship, you look at row 2 and then you match it with column B, the only thing we can get is B2. and that refers to this cell right here. And since every time we move, this cost is staying the same, that's why we want to fix this reference. We don't want it to move no matter what. So does that make sense? Is that okay? Amazing. Okay, great. So now you see when I autofill this, when I double click, now we get correct numbers because if I click on this cell, it's still B2. Look at C8 though, C8, so keep your eye on C. C is gonna change as we move down the cell, but B is not because we fixed it into place. Okay. All right. So we're gonna have lots more practice with this, don't worry. And then just to make this look like actual costs, let's go ahead and change this to money. So we're gonna change this to money. So to quickly highlight something, what I'm gonna do is, ooh, and I see a great question from Jamal. I'm gonna get to that in a moment. To highlight an entire column or to highlight many cells, a quick thing you can do is Control Shift down. If you're on a Mac, anytime I say Control, you'll replace that with Command. So I just do Control Shift down to highlight everything here. And then you see I'm going to click on this accounting. And then for me, it's in dollars, but you could choose whichever one of these you'd like. And I'm going to click this. So now we have this. And then Jamal is asking, why do we need the cost to be the same since we have different pages and the costs are per pages? So the reason why we need this printing cost to be the same is all of our pages are going to weigh 70 GSM, and this is going to be the price for pages weighing 70 GSM. So that means they all need to be the same. Okay, amazing. I'm loving all the questions. Are we okay so far before we continue? See a yes. I saw a quick question. All right, go for it. I see a no. If no, then let me know how I can help. But if fixing references isn't 100% clear, we're gonna have more practice with it. So I think over time, once you use it more, it will become a bit more clear. So for our printing cost, to do this, we're just going to multiply the number of pages times the cost per printing a page. And since we know all of our pages are 70 GSM and they're always going to be black and white, this right here is going to be the only cost that's relevant for us. The cost is per page, but all of our pages are weighed 70. So that means only this one's going to be relevant. Oh, a great question. Okay. So we'll do this and then we'll go to the next exercise. A great question from Indy. So Indy's essentially saying, what is this exclamation point? What is happening right here? Excellent question. So you see that we have different worksheets. We have different worksheets and they have different names. We started our formula in the book data sheet. So that was the worksheet where we were looking at first. Then I switched over to printing cost. So I switched over to printing cost just by clicking. Excel actually automatically did this for me, but right here, you'll see in quotes the name of the sheet, which is printing cost. So you see that in single quotes, and then you see an exclamation point. That is Excel saying, hey, instead of referencing book data, I want you to look at the worksheet called printing cost. And from that worksheet called printing cost, I want you to grab cell B2. So that's what it's doing. So the fixed reference is this part. Hopefully you can see the highlighting. The fixed reference is the dollar signs around the cell. But this right here, where you see single quotes, printing cost, exclamation point, that refers to the sheet, the specific worksheet. Is that okay? And then as we do more and more formulas, you're going to see Excel kind of automatically fill this in as well. Awesome. Happy to help. Okay, don't worry, we have plenty more practice with this. So let's just do another recap with this. This is what we did. So we had our printing cost of number of pages times cost per page. That's essentially what we did. So I'm not going to make it red. You can make it red if you want to, but I'm going to leave it as black. So then what we did is we took our number of pages that we have. So that's our estimated page count. Then we're going to multiply this by the cost. So how much does it cost to print each individual page? And this you find right here. After that, we're going to fix the references. So that's where we put the dollar signs between, or one in front of the B and then one in front of the 2 to fix that here. You're going to see this is done a little bit later down here. So this is going to be done down here. So just in case you want to follow along, it's done a little bit later. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on. So now I saw it many messages ago, but we're also going to have to include the cover costs. So let's just look and find this. So you see right here, we were looking at printing costs before, but now we're looking at cover costs. So for cover costs, oops, I was trying to get rid of Zoom's kind of like annotation. So for cover cost, you see there's going to be a different cost for if it's either hardback or if it's paperback. But knowing what we know about our data, which one is going to be most relevant? Which one is going to be most relevant for what we need to do with our books? I keep clicking it. I need to stop like instinctively clicking it. Yes, exactly. So cell B3, because we only want paperback. So that means that this cost for hardback is completely irrelevant and we're only looking at paperback. So we only need cell B3. Exactly. So keeping this in mind, and of course, we're going to go through this together. I'd like you to take just a couple of minutes. Maybe we'll do like 3 or 4 minutes, maybe a little less depending on how quickly everyone does this. Using Excel formulas, I would like you to calculate the sum of the printing cost and the cover cost for all books in the list. So you'll have to create a new column called printing and binding cost to do this. So just another recap, create a new column called printing and binding. Then you're going to calculate this cost. Amazing, I see this already. And then I also saw a question. Oop, question disappeared. Okay, how can we fix column J? So all answers there, but the formula will be removed. So I don't quite understand your question. So feel free to send me a message about it and I'm happy to kind of circle back. Okay, so I want to still give you some time. So I'm going to give you some background timer music. Actually, I didn't share my music, so you're not going to hear anything. So let me reshare. And so maybe since it's taken a little bit of time, let's do maybe about 1 minute. Okay, amazing. So I already saw a lot in live chat, but let's go over this together. So making sure you see this okay. So first, what we need to do is let's consider our printing and binding costs. So we're just going to type this. Printing and binding costs. And then we're going to make that nice and bold as well. So we're going to make that a bit pretty. So we already know, or we already kind of discussed which cell we need. So we know we only need cell B3. So to do this, we already calculated our printing cost. That's going to be this cell right here. So it's going to be in cell J. So just a reminder, when we're creating a formula, we're going to start with equals or doing any type of calculations. So we're going to do equals. I personally like to click, but you're welcome to type as well if you'd like. So we need the printing cost. And since the cover is just going to be a one-time fixed cost, we're going to do this plus, and then while I click away to a different worksheet, watch what my equation bar does. So watch what happens right when I click over to cover cost. Oop, just kidding. Okay. Watch what happens when I click on a cell in cover cost. There we go. So you'll notice since I clicked over to a new worksheet, what you're going to see is again, these quotation marks. So I see in quotations, cover cost, because I'm looking at my worksheet called cover cost. Exactly. Tataru's saying, but don't click back this time. Exactly. And then since I click this cell B3, that means this is what I'm referencing within cover cost. So Excel is going to do this when you're referring to a different worksheet than the original one you started with in your formula. So we started with our formula in book data worksheet. And since we're referring to something in cover cost, this is why Excel needs to do this. So it's going to be the name of the worksheet in single quotes, and then an exclamation right after that. So as we learned, we're not quite done with this. If we leave this as it is, Excel is going to keep changing cell B3 as we move down our rows. That's not what we want because this paperback cost is not going to change. It's going to stay the way it is. So we need to use our handy dandy references. So we're going to put a $ in front of B, which means Excel can only look at column B. And we're also going to put a $ in front of 3, which means Excel can only look at row 3. And if you fix column B and then you fix row 3, you only refer to one cell. So then we can get our printing and binding costs. And amazing, I see it in the live chat. Well done. Last but not least, if we want to do this for the entire column, we're just going to double click right here, our autofill. So we're going to double click here, and then it fills it through. Okay, so was that okay? Any questions about that before we move on? Leah's saying, or we can use VLOOKUPs. Yes, so don't worry, we will get to VLOOKUPs next week. All right, amazing. Cool. All right, let's keep on keeping on. And the formulas are, I believe, are in polls and answers. If I posted it in live chat, I think it would just get lost. Alrighty. So we're not going to refer to the number of copies just because this is going to be the printing cost in general. So this printing cost already includes the number of copies. So then we just have to add a cover onto it. And then we have the printing and binding cost. So binding is just referring to putting that cover on. Or I think maybe you mean like the front and back. So this is just considering that it's including the front cover and the back cover, but that's a great point. And absolutely, we're going to do index match and VLOOKUPs. Index match are actually my favorite. Okay. So now let's continue then. All right, so we've done exercise 1, well done. Now let's move on to other fixed costs that we have. So our rule of thumb has always been that there is about 80 cents of other fixed costs per book. This includes all the cost of paying editors, proofreaders, designers, etc. There's no particular reason to change this rule now, so we want to create a new worksheet called Other Fixed Costs and add this quantity there. So we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to incorporate these miscellaneous other costs to our calculations. Because worst comes to worst, we give ourselves a little bit of extra money. That's like the worst case scenario. Okay, so to create a new worksheet, let me get my laser back. So what we're going to do is click this plus at the very or towards the bottom of our Excel worksheet. So when we click this plus, you'll see that you're going to get a new sheet. And it's going to be to the right of the sheet that you had selected. I just want to go ahead and move it over. So I'm just going to click and drag it over here. Then, if you want to rename this sheet, what we can do is just double click, and then let's rename this Other Fixed Costs. Oops. So we'll rename this Other Fixed Costs. So now we have this worksheet here, and we're going to, just to double check, so remember, we're going to have about 80 cents of other fixed costs. So we're going to just implement this in our worksheet. So let's go ahead and title this Other Fixed Costs. And this is going to be 80 cents, also known as 0.8. So now we need to include this into our overall calculations. Zoom keeps going over, that's why I keep moving this around. Okay. So we've added our data. We've just done this. We've created our new worksheet called Other Fixed Costs. We've added our column called Other Fixed Costs. And then we've just added our 80 cents. So now we need to have our total cost for the book. This book needs to include our other fixed costs, as well as our printing and binding. So now for this next exercise, I'd like you to calculate the total cost per book. So just for this assumption, we're going to assume our total cost is the sum of the printing cost, the cover cost, other fixed costs, and royalties. So keep this in mind. How are we going to calculate this total cost with this assumption? So I'll give you a few minutes for this. So just another quick explanation. I'd like you to use our information that we have in book data to calculate the total cost. And I already see it in live chat. Well done. I'm not going to quite start yet. I'm still going to give you some time, but I'm just going to label this total cost to start. And then if you have questions as well, feel free to send them in live chat as usual. Amazing. I see them in live chat. Well done. If you're still chugging along, take your time. And we'll give it a few more minutes. I love the pink. Amazing. Okay. So let's go ahead and calculate our other costs or our total cost overall. So we know that our cost has to include, again, this has to include our printing, cover, other fixed costs, and royalties. So one of them you potentially could have forgotten about because we didn't mention it until the very start of the lecture. We haven't mentioned it for a bit. So that's going to be our royalties. We can't forget about our royalties. We have to actually pay our authors. It's important. So for total cost to do this, we first need to include our printing and binding. This conveniently we've already done right here. So we've already done this for K. Then let's go ahead and just include our fixed costs. So we need to include that miscellaneous fixed costs, but that is going to be a fixed reference. So just like I saw a lot in live chat, that has to be a fixed reference. So when we click on this, you'll notice we see this other fixed cost name because that's the name of our worksheet, but we still have to fix the reference. So other than pressing F4, what am I going to do to fix this reference? What do I do? I love the dollar signs. Yes, dollar signs, not to be confused with money. Yes, we're going to fix the reference with our dollar sign. So we're first going to we're going to put a dollar sign in front of A. That's going to fix column A. And then we're going to put a dollar sign in front of row 2. That's going to fix it to row 2. If you fix both the column and the row, you're pointing to one single cell, and that's exactly what we want. So that one's all done, but we have one more cost that we have to remember. So I'm going to go ahead and add this plus. And we also need to pay our author. So we need to remember our author's royalties per book sold. So that can be found in column G. So I'm just going to click on the cell here. And is this dynamic or is this fixed? Should I use a fixed reference for this or should I leave it alone? Exactly. This is dynamic. If we scroll down, you see this is going to change with every book. So as we go down a row, the author royalty per book sold is going to change. So that means it needs to be dynamic. If you have something changing, that means it's going to be dynamic and you should not use a fixed reference. So just keep that in mind. So then now we have all of our costs. We have our printing and binding. We have our author royalties and we have our miscellaneous costs. We can go ahead and click enter. Oops, it's just zoomed. And then we have our total cost. Since we used our fixed reference, down here you see, hopefully you see the square. We're going to double click on this square to autofill all the way down. Amazing. If you have a question, feel free to ask. And I have a question. Are royalties usually on the books sold and not printed? Yes, that's a great question. So royalties usually are going to be on the books sold. So this is going to overestimate a bit, but once we incorporate this estimated demand, it's going to kind of regulate everything out. But great question. Royalties are definitely just for copies sold. And yes, so repeat, absolutely. I'll just repeat everything. So we're gonna calculate everything. So you've already calculated our printing and binding costs. Now, afterwards, we needed to calculate our other miscellaneous cost, and that was found in this worksheet. So other fixed costs. To do this, since this is just one cell we're referring to, this is one cell that we're referring to, this has to be fixed. So you'll see that this is going to be fixed in our formula because of the dollar signs. That is our other fixed cost of 80 cents. After that, we had to include our author royalties, which is just over here. And this is just something we're going to add because it's costing us money. So we're just going to add our author royalties per book sold. And then we have our formula. So again, this first one, K2, is printing and binding. This big kind of chunk here, that's our fixed cost with our fixed reference. And then we had our royalties. So that's going to be our royalties. All right. Okay. All righty. So don't worry, we're going to do a lot more with fixed references. And for now, let's do one more exercise, and then we'll go ahead and take a break. So keep clicking that one. So we've done exercise 2. Oh, so we have to add author royalties because this is the total cost to us. So this is how much it costs for us to produce this book. And since we have to pay the author, it's going to have to be incorporated into the cost. We want to also incorporate this into our book cost anyway, so we don't have to pay out of pocket. So this is kind of a helpful thing to do, but great question. Okay, so let's look at our next one. So let's go ahead and start our publisher's markup, and then we will take a break. So, or maybe we'll even explain the publisher's markup and then we might go to break. We'll see what's in the cards. So you always aim for a markup of 35% of the total cost so you can turn a profit for your business. For example, if the total cost for producing a book is $10, your markup would be $3.50, meaning you would want to add the $3.50 to your $10 that it costs you to produce the book, so you're actually making money. You want to make the price a little bit more than what you had to pay to actually produce it. Otherwise, you're never going to make money. You're just going to always get your immediate return back. So this is why we have to have some type of markup. So let's create a new column called Publisher's Markup. And this is going to be the markup in dollars for each book. Amazing. I already see this in live chat. But before we kind of move on before we move on a bit, I just want to make sure, is this concept clear? Is it clear why we're adding this markup and how we're adding it? Is that okay? Okay, great. It's especially important if you want to have your own business so you actually make money. Exactly, to get the profit. You need to make some money. After all your hard work, you have to increase the price a bit. So you're not only paying for the cost, how much it costs to produce whatever you're making, but also you're making money off of your product. Excellent. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the publisher's markup. Oops, it's the wrong one. So we're going to create a new column, publisher's markup, and I'm going to let you do the rest. So I would like you to fill this column with the publisher's markup, keeping in mind that we're going to aim for a markup of 35%. So we're going to use 35% of the markup so we can make a little bit of money. And yeah, so for other questions, I will definitely come back to them. I think instead I'll type them during the break because I saw a few questions, but I have to scroll to them. So in the meantime, going back to royalties is the first question I see. So while you're completing exercise 3, I'll just go back to royalties. So our royalties are going to be how much we have to pay the author for books sold, for every book sold. So the author makes a little bit of money. It's actually like a very small amount considering all the work they put into it, but they make a little bit of money per book sold. This is a cost that we actually have to pay. So we have to consider this cost into what we're charging for the book. So that's why we included the author royalties in our total cost. So the author royalties is G2, and that's why we included this. And then a quick refresh for references. So remember, if you have a reference or if you have a $, if you put the $sign in front of the letter, that's going to refer to columns. Columns always refer to these letters here. So we see A. If I click on A, get rid of this. If I click on A, it's a column. If I click on C, it's column C. However, for the numbers that we see here, those are going to be rows. So 4 is row 4. 10 is row 10. So here, we've been referring to cells the entire time, but later when we go to index match, We're either going to just fix a column or maybe we'll fix a row. It really depends. So we'll see more of that a bit later. But for this example here, we first see a dollar sign in front of the A. That means we're fixing column A within other fixed costs. So if we look here, this means, hey, Excel, or I'll actually put it over here so you can see. If it says like this, other fixed costs, and then if it says like this, A, where's the A? There it is, A2. Other fixed costs is referring to this worksheet here. If I see a dollar sign in front of the A, that means, hey, Excel, only look at column A, no matter what. You can move any row in the world, but you can only look at column A. That's what that's going to mean. If we're saying, if we have a dollar sign in front of the 2, that's going to mean, hey, Excel, only look at row 2. Only look at row 2, no matter whatever column you want to move in, doesn't matter, only look at row 2. However, when we combine them, there's only one place that combines only looking at column A and only looking at row 2. That points right to a cell. So with that kind of logic, we're telling Excel, only look at cell A2. That's what we're saying right here. So again, dollar sign in front of the letter, you're telling Excel, stay in this column. Dollar sign in front of the number, you're telling Excel, stay in this row. Combine the two, you're telling Excel, only look at one cell. So just a nice recap. I know it's kind of weird formatting, but I think as you use it more and more, it'll become a lot more familiar. Okay, that was our tidbit. It's great to ask questions like those. Those are amazing. So now let's review our publisher's markup, and then we'll take a break. So as you all have shown in live chat, amazing, well done. Our publisher's markup is going to be 35% of the price. So to do this, we're going to multiply 0.35 times our total cost. So we're going to type 0.35. Then we're going to have our multiplication symbol, which is just going to be our star. And then what we're going to do is click on our total cost, which is right here. So when we click on our total cost, then we get our publisher's markup. This time, everything's going to be dynamic. By everything, I just mean L2. As you move down, Excel is not going to change your numbers. If you type a number, Excel is going to keep it. So then, if we want to autofill down for the rest of the column, we can just double click our usual square in the bottom right here, double click, and then we have our publisher's markup. And great question, Sam. Yes, our markup is going to be an addition. So we have our total cost. Our total cost is how much it's costing us to produce the book, but we haven't yet created how much we're charging for the book. So the publisher's markup is going to be incorporated in how much we're charging for the book. Great question. All right, any other questions? See some typing. Well done. I see the answers in live chat. And let me click so you can see the formula there. All good, amazing. Oh, if you're getting just one digit, you might be on a rounding. So you'll see right here, decrease decimal, increase decimal. If I do this and click decrease decimal, it's going to decrease. But if I click increase, then it'll give you that second decimal point. So that might be what happened there. And then make sure you're not using a percentage. Excel won't be happy with using 35% because that's not a number technically that we can multiply. So we have to convert this to a decimal. 35% corresponds to 0.35. So you have to multiply 0.35 times the total cost. All right. Okay. Amazing. So, and then, so yeah, if you're just typing the numbers don't need fixing. Excel's not going to automatically change numbers that you're multiplying as you move down. So that can stay put. And then if you use 35%, it depends on the version of Excel that you're using. Sometimes Excel is happy with 35%. A lot of times I've seen Excel unhappy with it. It just depends on the version of Excel you're using. I'd recommend just using decimals when you can, just in case something wonky happens. Okay, so let's go ahead and take our break. If you're still having issues, I'm still going to be here during the break, so I'll kind of comb through live chat and try to answer any questions or any errors that you're having. But see you all after the break. One cell, we have to focus on this one cell. So since we're doing this other fixed cost for just this one cell, this is the only reference that we have to fix. So remember when we're fixing a cell, the dollar sign has to go in front of the letter and the number. Remind me why it has to be the letter and the number as a reminder. Why the letter and the number? Exactly, to lock the column and the row. If we're locking both the column and the row, that points to one cell, and that's what we're referring to. We're referring to cell A2. So by locking column A and by locking row 2, we are referring to cell A2. Exactly. So now we've got our printing and binding, we've got our miscellaneous other costs, and the last thing we have to worry about is our author royalties. Because remember, this is something we have to pay the author. So this we actually find in our book data all the way over in column G, and that's right here, author royalties per book sold. So that's why in looking at this first book in Titan Fading, that's why we're referring to K2, which is our printing and binding. We have, this is always 0.8. This is our miscellaneous cost. And then we have G2, which is going to be our author royalties. So the printing cost is just printing the pages themselves, whereas the binding is just slapping that cover on there. So that's going to be the difference between the two. Then we come to the publisher's markup. This is so we can make some money. So this we're going to have to incorporate in how much we're charging for the book. So the publisher's markup is going to be, we've decided at 35%. So if we multiply 35% times how much it costs for us to make this book, this is what we want to increase or also include in our final price. So we can make sure that we're making a profit. Otherwise, if you're selling this book just for this flat price of $12.79, you're not making any money. So that is the issue. And for this, you could change this to 0.8. However, it's better to leave it like this because what if your other fixed costs change? And now, instead of just changing one cell, we have to change this entire column. What if you have 100,000 rows? Then you have to go through every single row and change each individual formula. That is a pain. So that's why it's better to refer to cells or rows or columns whenever we can, because it's much easier to change this one cell rather than 100,000 or a million rows. So that was a great question from Jamal. Okay, let's dive back into it. So we've done our publisher's markup already. Teeny tiny bit more math, but it's not too bad. So we also have to include this MSRP. This is because when we partner with retailers, they're going to ask us for a discounted price. This is just because they're buying from us in bulk and they want a discount. And they're helping us out by selling their book. They want a discount. We don't want to take this discount out of the money that we're making. We don't want to do that. So what we're doing is essentially saying that we're giving them a discount, but also increasing the price by this discount we would give them. That might seem a bit confusing, but let's break it down a little bit more. So we're looking at this formula. So our discounted price is equal to the MSRP, which is the market suggested retail price, times, and we have decided that they're going to want a discount of 40%. So if they want a discount of 40%, that means that there's going to be 60% of the price left. So the way I calculate that is 100 minus 40. 40 represents the discount that they want, and that leaves us with 60%. 60%, which we can also write as 0.6. So this is going to be equal to our discounted price. This is how much they want to pay. We don't want to do that. We don't want to give them that discount. We want to inflate the price a bit to cushion enough to account for this discount. So this is just a teeny bit of math, teeny tiny bit of math. So now we want to solve for MSRP. So, in equations, you have to get everything over to one side. Now, instead of having discounted price alone right here, we want MSRP alone. To do that, I have to divide both sides by 0.6. So the reason I'm doing that is just because I want to move this 0.6 from here over here. I just want to move this over. And the only way you can undo multiplication is with division. So I'm just getting rid of this. I'm dividing both sides by 0.6. So I'm going to draw it, but it's going to look like chicken scratch. I'm sorry. It's hard to draw on this. So I'm going to divide both sides by 0.6, trying my best. Divide this also by 0.6. Divide by 0.6. And then we get our MSRP. So we get our MSRP. So that's where we have this division. So that's why discounted price is divided by the 0.6, because we want to figure out how much extra do we have to charge our customers so we don't have to pay that discounted price. So is that okay so far? Are we okay with this? Teeny tiny bit of arithmetic. Yeah, great question. So why 0.6? So we're doing 0.6 because they're asking us for a discount of 40%. If they're asking us for a discount of 40%, that's taking 40% off of the original price. If the original price is 100%, 100% is the total, and we're taking 40% off, what's left is 60%. 60% can also be written as 0.6. So that's where that 0.6 comes fair. I see that it's not fair. I know this is what they do to us normally. This is for our sales. Our sales aren't really sales. Our discounts aren't really discounts. It's a little hurtful. So this is what it really is. So now I don't want to discount anymore. So I'm going to get rid of my terrible writing. So now with this, we have our equation for our discounted price. Now, this is a way we can calculate this MSRP, our market suggested retail price. So now we can include our discounted price within the markup. So with this formula that we calculated, I would like you now to try to create a column called discounted price and use it to compute the MSRP. So first, calculate discounted price, and then use that discounted price to calculate the MSRP for each book. So yes, that's the market suggested retail price. So first, you're going to need to have a column for your discounted price. So first, just go ahead and create that discounted price column. And then using, let me get my annotation, Using this formula here, use that discounted price to create the MSRP. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes for this. I forgot to share my music again. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, share. And let's say we'll give you a little longer for this. Yeah, great question. So I'll leave the timer there. So the discount is actually in that division. So the reason why we're dividing by 0.6 is because 60% of our price is remaining. If they want a 40% discount, that means we have to remove 40% from the price. So that's 100 minus 40, and that leaves us with 60%. So then we incorporate that discount by saying there's 60% of the price remaining. Now let's inflate it by that 60 so we don't have to cover that discount. So does that make sense? So that part was only in the derivation. So don't use kind of how we derive the formula, just use our final formula. So just make sure that you're using this MSRP equals discounted price divided by 0.6. That's going to be how we calculate MSRP for all of our books. Yeah, definitely. So if this is a bit confusing, don't worry, we're going to go over it and I'll explain it again. So no worries. Unless there's something specific I can repeat, then happy to do that too. Amazing. Keep them coming. Well done, everyone. If you're lost, don't worry. So with this as well, we have a lot of different levels with Excel and just kind of data analytics tools overall. That is totally okay, but keep in mind, everyone has a different pace. So if at all you feel like you're a bit lost or confused, just take in whatever you can from the lecture. And then these are all recorded, luckily. So what you'll do is just rewatch the recording, pause whenever something isn't super clear, pause whenever you kind of need to really like take some time to do the exercise, and then only keep going with the lecture once you feel comfortable. So that might take you a little bit longer, but you're going to have a much more comprehensive understanding. And when you do that as well, feel free to ask me questions, send them my way, send them to your TAs, or even going through the concepts with your TAs. So it's going to take some practice and it takes a little bit of dedication and some time, but you will definitely get there. So if you're feeling a little confused, do not worry. These are not easy concepts. They take a little bit of time. Alrighty. So I'm going to go ahead and review just so we have time for everything. So keep in mind, we're using this MSRP formula. So our discounted price divided by 0.6. First, we actually need our discounted price. So we're going to create discounted price, and I'm going to make that bold. So our discounted price is actually going to be our normal price. So there's not really going to be a discount to it. That's just the normal price that we're charging. So to find the normal price, what we need to do is take our total cost plus our publisher's markup. Remember, we added or we calculated this publisher's markup just so we have money. So we're making money from our books. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So remember, for all Excel formulas, we start with an equal sign. We're going to click just the total cost plus our publisher's markup, and that's going to be our discounted price. Of course, we're not actually incorporating a discount, but we want to make sure these discounts don't come out of our profit. That is really important. So again, our discounted price is just taking our total cost and adding our publisher's markup. So of course, there's not an actual discount, but we want to make sure our base price doesn't interfere with our profit. Is that okay so far before we move on to MSRP? Is that okay why we did this? Someone said scam. And if no, please do let me know which part isn't clear. So we're just taking our total cost. Our total cost is how much it costs for us to produce the book. And then we already calculated this publisher's markup. We're adding that as well, just to make sure we make some money. This is our base price. This is the lowest we can charge for a book to ensure we're still making money. So no, we're not going to use our formula to calculate discounted price. We're just going to use our formula to calculate MSRP. So that might be, if you kind of like underive the formula, that might have been where some of the confusion was. Okay, so our discounted price is essentially the lowest we can sell our book. So then if we have this, both of these need to be dynamic. So we're just going to double click this and then autofill. Okay, perfect. So yep, now we're going to calculate the MSRP with our formula. So there might be some confusion. The discounted price and the MSRP are going to be different. The discounted price is what the retailers are asking us, how much they have to pay. And then the MSRP is going to be what they charge customers. So now let's use the formula to calculate MSRP. So I'm going to type that here and just put that in bold. So, and then remember, our MSRP is our discounted price, which we calculated already. Our discounted price is going to be the total cost it is for us to make a book plus our publisher's markup. So we make money. So we have that discounted price, and now we need to divide this by 0.6 to obtain the MSRP. Whenever you divide by a decimal, it's going to make the number a bit bigger. So this is going to allow us to account for the discount that the retailers are asking for. So then to do this, we're going to take our discounted price, just going to click on discounted price, and then I'm going to divide by 0.6. So that 0.6 accounts for the 40% discount. 0.6, aka 60%, is what is left after we take away that 40% discount. And then yes, well done, Hakeem. So yeah, the discounted price is our total cost plus the markup. Exactly. And that's in the Codio case kind of at the bottom. So now you see we have this here. So we have, again, to find the MSRP, we just took our discounted price, then divided that by 0.6 to account for our discount. And then since this is going to be fine, since we're just typing numbers, we're not going to need to do any references here. N2 needs to be dynamic, and since 0.6 is a number, that is okay. So now we have our MSRP. Is this okay? I know this part's a little odd. We had like a little bit of derivation of formulas. Is this okay? MSRP is just market suggested retail price. Good now. Awesome. So just again, another recap. Our discounted price we just found by taking our total cost plus our publisher's markup. This is our discounted price. From the formula we used before, the MSRP, to calculate the MSRP, we had to have our discounted price and divide by 0.6. And that gives us our MSRP, just so we can account for the discount that they're going to ask us for later. So you shouldn't say MSRP is 60% of the discounted price plus the actual discounted price. It's better to do this just because it requires a little bit less like formula derivation. But this is just accounting for our 40% discount that they're asking us for. So we're trying to increase by that amount so we don't have to pay it ourselves. And so don't just be careful. I think there's some confusion. So don't kind of feed back in your formula. So don't plug things in to try to calculate the discounted price from MSRP. Just start with your discounted price first as total cost plus publisher's markup. That's your discounted price. Then plug that into your formula. So plug that into this formula here. All right. So hopefully that's okay. And if it takes some time, don't worry. If you have like the bare bones of it, you have the kind of foundation, you can always build up on it by watching again and doing some practice. So yes, essentially, we're not really giving them a discount. That's kind of like the bottom line. We're incorporating this discount into our price so we don't have to pay for it. That is the overall takeaway. Yes. Amazing. Okay. Well done. So before we move on, are we okay with that? Just want to double check. And then if they ask for less than 40%, we're just assuming that it's going to stay this 40%. If it changes, then we have to change our formula. So we just have to derive that formula again, which doesn't take too much time. Awesome. Okay, amazing. So to calculate discount price, no, you shouldn't do N2 times 0.6. Don't do that to calculate discount price. To calculate the discount price, you'll have the total cost plus the publisher's markup. That will be your discount price. And yes, it's not actually a discount price, but that's what we're saying is a discounted price. Okay, well done. So now let's calculate some statistics. Let's find out how much money are we spending, how much money are we making, and what is our actual profit? That is going to be important. So a lot of people are saying scam. Patrick's like, this is all a scam. Everything's a scam. So now that we've calculated our MSRP, let's try to calculate our total revenue or expected revenue as well as our expected costs. So we're going to see this in these formulas here. So first, I just want you to notice in expected revenue, why are we considering our estimated demand and expected revenue, but why are we not considering this in expected cost? Why are we doing that? Why are we not considering this estimated demand in our expected cost? Get my pointer back. Exactly. Exactly. So well done, Glenn. Well done. I see several people typing. Well done, everyone who's typing as well. So we have to print these books anyway. Even if we don't sell them, that's unfortunate for us, but it still costs money to print them. So we only need to consider the books that we're printing. Hopefully we sell them all, but we have to pay for them anyway. So that's why we're only considering the copies times the total cost. So let's go ahead and calculate the total expected revenue and total expected cost. So I'm just going to do this, and you can feel free to follow along with me, but we're just going to use these formulas here. So let's do total expected revenue first. And remember, this should be for each book. So, and then I saw a question. So why are you multiplying the discount price and not MSRP? Great question. So let's go back to this. So we have our copies times our estimated demand times our discounted price. The MSRP is going to be for the retailers. So the MSRP is what the retailers are asking for the discount from, and we have to sell the books for the discounted price. So that's why we increase the price a bit so we can account for this discounted price. So our discounted price is our base price. The MSRP is for the retailers. That's how much they should sell the book for. Great question. So let's first calculate this expected revenue. So it's going to be copies times estimated demand times discounted price. Keep scrolling over. So total expected revenue. Make that bold. So we have first our copies, which there we are. So copies times estimated demand. I think Excel, it really depends. So if you click this, Excel might be happy. If it's not happy, then you may have to change this to a decimal. I think older versions of Excel might not be happy about this, but if you're using Excel online, it should be okay. So we have our copies times our estimated demand times our discounted price, which is here. So when we multiply this, we can get our expected revenue, our total expected revenue for every book. So again, we just have copies times our expected demand, how many books we expect to sell, times our discounted price. And with that, we're going to autofill down. Now, just remembering to look at the formula again, our expected cost only takes into account our copies and our total cost. We don't take into consideration our discounted cost because our discounted cost is what we're selling for. Our total cost is what it takes to produce these books. So that's what we're focused on for expected cost. So to find the total expected cost, we just do copies times how much it costs to make these books. So let's do that. I'm going to do total expected cost. And again, we're going to do equal sign to signify our formula. We're going to go scroll to our copies times our total cost, which is how much it costs to make this book. And then we get our expected cost. Make this bold. Okay. Is that okay? Does that make sense? There are a lot of good questions. Awesome. Well done, everyone. We're doing some real number crunching with Excel. You all should be very, very proud. We're gonna do a lot more with Excel too. You're gonna be like, in a couple of weeks, oh yeah, no, it's a piece of cake. I'm doing like double index match. I can do it all. Okay. So we've already done our expected revenue. And then we also did our expected costs. I just did that to kind of together just for the sake of time. And also because I saw a lot of it in live chat. You all are doing an amazing job. So now what I would like you to calculate in the next couple of minutes, I want you to calculate the total expected profits across the books. So first, just calculate our expected profit per book. And then actually we'll take the step next from there. So I just want you to create a column for profits and calculate the total expected profit per book. Oh, amazing. Some of you already did it for everything. Well done. Okay. Awesome. I love it. How I feel when using Excel. Definitely Mission Impossible vibes. Amazing. Okay, so for the sake of time, let's go ahead and do this. So, first, what we need to do is figure out the profit. To calculate the profit, we need to have revenue minus cost because that leftover money is going to be our profit. So let's go ahead and make a new column for that. Total expected profit. Make it bold so we know this is the title of the column. So again, we're going to make a formula. So just like I mentioned before, we have revenue minus the expected cost. This is going to be the remaining profit that we have. Now, both of these values are dynamic, meaning as we move down a row, it's going to change because as we move down one row, that refers to a different book. As we move down another row, that's a different book again. So both are dynamic, so we don't need to fix any references. So we'll double click, and now we have our profit. So this is the profit per book. Now, if we want to figure out our expected cost or our total expected revenue, our total expected profit, and our total expected cost, we can use some aggregate functions. And I'll do this together just so we can get to this MSRP as well. So we need to use some aggregate functions. So let's create a new worksheet. And I know y'all are on fire. You have this. You've got the average, the sums, the profit. Amazing. But I'm just going to go over this with you so you have everything in one nice comprehensive lecture. So let's create a new sheet. And we're going to say aggregate statistics. I had to make sure I spelled aggregate correctly. So let's go ahead and find the total across all books. We want to find the total expected revenue, total expected cost across all books, and then total expected profit. So I'm just going to type that. Revenue across all books. Should have made this a shorter title. Total expected cost across all books. Total profit across all books. To do this, we're not going to add every single individual cell by hand. We're going to use the sum formula. So as you probably saw, or I think I've showed you a few of the formulas before in previous lectures, Excel has a lot of built-in tools to make it easier for you to do calculations. One of them is the sum function. So if I type equals and I type sum, you see there's a lot more functions here, but if I type sum, Excel actually tells me what it does. If I hover over it, it says this is just going to add numbers. If I click on it, it's going to tell you the format that it wants. So Excel is telling me it just wants an array of numbers. So it's just like, tell me what you want me to add, and I will add it for you. So if I want to add the expected revenue across all books, I'm going to go back to where we compiled all this data back to all of our hard work. So what you can either do, you can either click, I'm trying to move this so you can see, move it over there. You can either click on the column and Excel is smart enough to say, oh, okay, I'll add everything in the column. Or if you want, you can click on the cell and then do Control-Shift down. Whichever you prefer, they're going to do the same thing. In this case, I'll just click on the column. I'm going to close my parentheses. And now Excel has given me my total expected revenue across all books. Now let's just change this to a numerical value. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to click accounting and then choose whichever currency you prefer. So now I have it here. Now, as you've posted in live chat, which is amazing, If I want to do the same thing for expected cost, I'm going to do the same thing except with column Q. So instead of using column P, I'm going to use column Q to find the expected cost. So let's just do it once more. Equals sum. Sum is just going to ask for an array, so that means just a group of numbers. So now I've started my formula, I have to navigate to where I want to do the calculation. And this time it's going to be for expected cost. So to make it a bit faster, I'm just going to click. So you want to click at the top where the letter is. I'm just going to click here, and Excel is going to highlight the entire column, but it's only going to add together where they're actually numbers, so that's okay. Then I close my parentheses, and I've got this sum. Again, I want to change it to numbers, so I'm going to click here to accounting, and then choose whatever currency you'd like. And then now, if for profit, it depends on what you'd like to do. If you want to just subtract these, that would be your total, or you can also just add the profit, whichever. So maybe just so we don't have to go back and forth, let's just do some subtraction. So the total profit across all books is going to be our revenue minus our expected costs. And then that's going to be this here, which honestly doesn't seem like too much for all of the work we're doing to print the books, to market the books, to sell the books. It seems like a lot for just under $10,000. And so I'm just checking for questions. So calculating the total expected cost, we had the formula for that, but the total expected cost, if we click here, this was just the number of books that we're printing. So the number of books that we're printing, the copies, times the total costs. So how much does it cost to print these books? That's how we find the total expected cost. Okay. And so just so we have enough time, let's also just do that average MSRP. So that last question here. So we want to calculate the average MSRP per page. First, we need to create a new column called MSRP per page. There's kind of like a hint. So whenever you see per, that means division. So we're going to have to find the MSRP per page, aka MSRP divided by the number of pages. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're going to do MSRP per page. Make that nice and bold. Now, remember, equal sign means we're doing a calculation or a formula. So I've done my equal, and then I have my MSRP. So this is my MSRP for the book, and I have to divide this by the number of pages the book has. So then I get my MSRP per page. So we're going to scroll over to pages, estimated page count right here. So I have MSRP divided by page. That gets me MSRP per page. So, whoops, I see it's going to be, for this book, it's going to be about 7 cents. Now, remind me, do I have to fix any cells here? Do I need to fix any of these cells? Amazing. The sea of no's. Why don't I have to fix them? Yes, dynamic. They are changing. They're going to change with every single book. As I move down a row, it's going to be a different MSRP and a different page count. That means both variables need to change and should not be fixed. Excellent. So that means all I need to do is just double click. I'm ready to autofill this formula. Now I get my MSRP per page. However, I'm not quite done yet. Our question actually wants us to find the average MSRP per page. So instead of using sum, we're going to use our handy dandy function average. So let's just type average MSRP per page. And how do I start this? What do you think I should start? Exactly. Always start with equals. Amazing. And so exactly equals average. So a lot of the functions are actually named what they are. So if you're looking for a minimum, it'll be min. If you're looking for maximum, it'll be max. So if you start typing average, Excel is smart, it's trying to help me out, but this is how we begin the average. So just like before, we're going to navigate to where we want to take the average. And then since we want to take the average of all of the MSRPs per page, I'm going to go ahead and click on column S. So I'm going to click on column S, this MSRP per page, close my parentheses, and now I get the average MSRP per page. So this should be a numerical value, or sorry, this should be a currency. So I would go ahead and round this up to 0.08 because we can't chop up our pennies or our nickels or anything like that. If you don't have to do this in your head, Excel can do this automatically for you. If we just navigate to accounting and then choose the currency that you would like, then you see the average MSRP per page is going to be 8 cents. And then, yes, the formula for printing costs, that is here. And I'll post it. Oh, hey. There you go. So, I know there are a few questions. Let me try to answer the quick ones. So the total profit for all books, can I explain again? Definitely. So the total profit, so we found our revenue and we found our total expected cost. To find the profit, you take the revenue minus the expected cost. So you're taking away how much you have how much money you made, and you have to take away how much it cost you to actually produce those materials. And the leftover money is your profit. So that's how we calculated the profit. If you're getting an error for average, just make sure that when Excel is doing this, so when you do equals, as you begin typing, instead of typing average completely, just click on whatever average produces. So just try to click on it instead, and hopefully that will fix it. And then average, what we did, we calculated our MSRP. So our MSRP per page, this was just our MSRP divided by however many pages the book was. And then with this, we auto-filled everything and we took the average of this entire column. So the average function is going to input a few numbers for however many numbers you want. It's going to take the average of all of those numbers. And so that's what our average function did. And then we got our 0.08 here. Okay, amazing work, everyone. I know we have to do our conclusion announcements as well as our Zoom poll. So I just want to do a quick kind of statement. If this was kind of a lot for today, don't worry. I'd recommend just trying to review the lectures just for 10 minutes beforehand, just so you get a little bit familiar with the concepts. And also you have the recordings, so you can watch the recordings at your own pace, stop whenever something doesn't make sense. Feel free to message me, message your TAs if you need extra support and extra help. And at the end of the day, you've got this. We are all here to help you succeed. So, excellent job, everyone.